So we're going to start with probably the most well-known template hole that you will have definitely designed at some point, and that's the cape hole. So here we're looking at the 17th at Playa Saona, and what is a cape hole? A lot of people think it's defined by this diagonal drive over water. It really isn't. The thing that defines a cape hole is the green that juts out into trouble, and ideally, if you can, it's by water, but often it's done by 3 bunkers or bunkers on all sides. Now there should be room to come in short, but generally that's where the design comes from. So on this one, it is a stereotypical cape hole in that the more you challenge the trouble off the tee on the right hand side, the better your angle is going to be in going at that green. Now the further you bail out this way, the more you're taking on the water on that second shot. If you're hitting it down to about here, you're going to be hitting over water to a green that runs kind of away from you. So really the play with this one is to try to hug this side as best you can. We'll see how that works. The slow might help us. I mean, this was designed as an easier sort of template course, and that's pretty much your ideal tee shot. It's also going to shorten the hole quite a lot. You could argue it's a bit of a prize dog leg as well. But even with the green, you'll notice the subtle contours do help that. The further left I am approaching this, the more precise I'm going to have to be with my approach to not see this little fall off here. So that's kind of what a cape is. We're going to look at some other examples. This is kind of the most benign version. If you think about that's what the concept is, well, how could we vary it? Length of approach, difficulty of tee shot. This is a generally pretty tame hole, but it gives you the concept quite nicely. For our second cape hole, we're going to look at the 5th at Greenstone River, and I think this is very much in the vein of that traditional style cape. This was designed in TGC 2019, so the fairway is a little bit narrower than maybe what I'd do now, but as you can see, it really winds closely around the water, and again you've got this green protected on 3 sides. At the back side by a bunker, and then on the right it's the water. What I think this one does particularly well is just that one simple idea done very well. And as you'll see from the tee shot here, it sets you up to hit a 3-wood over here, and that's not too dangerous a shot. Although the fairway is relatively narrow in terms of how wide, in terms of how even the layup option can be quite tricky. And I think what this one does, you've really got to understand with a cape hole, I think it works really well for a par 4, particularly where you're trying to put pressure on both shots. This one really ramps up the pressure on the tee shot compared to the one we saw at Saona, which was just a fairly easy tee shot. With this one, if you're hitting driver, you are going to have to be dead accurate to split that gap, or not run into that bunker. Or you're going to have to work it towards the water, really, to make the most of the fairway. If you're laying up, or you're looking at maybe partial driver or 3-wood, with hindsight, I think I probably would have liked to have given a bit more bailout area up here on the fairway, but yeah, it worked well in 19. Now, in terms of reward, it's a simple idea. The more you carry off the tee, the flatter your stance is going to be, because, well, the flatter your stance is going to be the more you hug the right side of the fairway, therefore getting as close to the water as you can. Further left you are, the more you're going to be on a camber, and the ball is going to be pushed further towards the water on your approach. Now, really, the green is still the thing that makes this hole, because it is jutting out into trouble, and you're going to have to be precise with both. But I think this style of cape design is most liked because of how much pressure it puts on the tee shot. So we're going to take a very aggressive line and see how we do. And we get a very slow. And as you can see, it really forces you to bite off maybe a bit more than you can chew. That's the tee shot we probably wanted. And as you can see, it looks maybe a bit more intimidating than it is. So now we're hitting 4, and actually the greens, whilst I wouldn't say it's gentle, that's going to be relatively receptive for this sort of pin, and it will allow you to work the ball down to that. I think this hole at Raynor Ridge is probably one of my all-time favourite cape holes, and it's because it's just a very different type of hole. So this one's drivable, which immediately adds that extra bit of risk reward, and you can see how the green's contoured to kind of tempt you to go for it. Now if we're looking at off the tee again, you can see that the safe play, you can play for 5-iron, no problems whatsoever. You'll have wedge in, you'll have a decent angle. But the further up you creep, it's a really narrow fairway, so kind of tempts you even if you go just a little bit. Like if you're going for 3-wood, you might as well drive it. Now with this wind, it's kind of a no-go, but even then we could be hitting driver here and going, well, maybe a pitch from up here would work. What I think makes this one work just so well is this spine and where the pins are. Because if you're finding yourself up here, even driving the green, that's not a guarantee of a birdie because you can easily run the ball off the front, putting down. Speaking from experience. Now it's still a cape. I mean, in actual fact, this one's pretty much protected on all 4 sides. So water, but you can see it's now jutting out into bunkers, which typically replaced the water on a lot of the Raynor the Raynor designs. And I'm a big fan of this one because it just forces an awkward decision. You can easily lay up, but there's no guarantee of birdie. The water's still on your left. It's still in danger of a fast downswing. It's almost like you're deferring the difficulty if you lay up here, which I really do like on this hole. I'm not going to try to play this one. I've speed played the first 5 holes, and much as I love this, I don't fancy it in this wind. And that water in front is just, yeah, this hole works really, really well. And the 4 pins give you a different sort of taste on this every single time. Now, as mentioned, you can put spins on these holes, and one example was Kaiuma's 13th. So this one is a cape hole, and it's actually is a par 3. So took out the tee shot and just stood you on the edge, and particularly this pin, I think this is pin 1, really gives you a taste of everything that cape has to offer. It's very much, do you dare hit that close to the water? And a good technique for a cape hole is also, if you can make the land fit it, can you put that far pin on a tier so people really have to go chasing it rather than just bailing out here, because that's going to leave a longer putt. So that's the cape hole. There's loads you can do with it. You can make it into a par 5, can work really nicely. Par 3s kind of work. Mostly though it's a par 4 design, and it's a really heroic approach, and it's one that I would expect to see one of your harder holes. If you're making it too easy, then I'd argue you want to bring the hazards in a little bit more. So I hope that's helped, and we'll see you next time.